can see the sunshine dripping out your sleeves onto my lifeline. Oh, good. Oh, you didn't mean to leave a trail for me, but you didn't know whichever it is. It's alright with me. If it's alright with you, then I could be whatever it is that you need me to, my love. 'Cause you're golden. It's alright with you, then I could be whatever it is that you need me to, my love. 'Cause you're golden.
I'm looking towards you, and now the battle is won. You hold on to something I need and want. Two hearts beating as one. It's stronger now than ever. Help me take on the world it's captivating. Yeah. Aren't you tired of living on the outside? Don't you want to live without
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Industry Talks with me, as always, Scott Harrison. And today we have the awesome director and choreographer, Mark Hedges, which I'm just changing because I've realised that it's still saying the wrong name. There we go. Mark Hedges, save, done. So welcome, Mark.
Hello.
This is kind of like a special industry talks, because this is one that the students essentially demanded that we have. So you're incredibly popular. They were like, please, please,
Oh,
please, can Mark do one of the industry talks? And I was like, of course, absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And so kind of you're here by popular demand. Uh,
that feels so lovely. Who knew?
there you go.
I thought they all hated me.
I mean, I'm probably sure they still do after all of the hard work that you make them go through, but you can
Well,
never win. You can never win.
no,
So yeah, so I want you to just start off just by telling us, for anybody that's maybe not a student and watching, because currently we have people on Twitch right now, and we have people on Facebook. I just want you just to tell them a bit about your work, a bit about what you've been doing, and what kind of things it is that people would know you for.
so I always find these things so incredibly like cringeworthy talking about yourself, but I'll give it a go. So I've been in the industry for 20 years. Um, like 12 of those years as an actor. Very fortunate to appear in some. Mainly, my whole career has been in musical theatre. Um, very, very lucky to have appeared in lots of lovely shows. Starlight Express, Grease, um, Les Mis, lots of really lovely shows. And then when I was Les Mis was the last show I was in as a performer in 2011, and I was the dance captain and a swing. And it was kind of the first time that I'd ever worked with kids. The dance captain at Les Mis is responsible for auditioning the Gavroches and the Cosettes and the Little Eponines, and you audition them, rehearse them into the show, and then you're basically like a children's director, but without that title. Um, and I loved that part of the job, and I loved being a dance captain on Les Mis because of the nature of the show. It's very hands-on with the resident director, so you're very much part of cast changes, staging the show alongside the resident, because Les Mis, as I'm sure everybody knows, is a very busy show for everybody. It's obviously has all of those wonderful leading roles, but the ensemble, it's very much an ensemble show. So for me, that was my first taste of being creative and having an opinion and directing and staging. Um, and I loved it that much that they I was in the show for 3 years, and then when I was leaving the show, I was still auditioning for other shows. Never thought that I would stop performing at all. And when I was leaving the show, Cameron's office offered me the tour of Oliver as children's director. And long story short, didn't want to do it because didn't want to be a children's director. I was like, absolutely would rather die than be literally a children's director for all of those kids. But my agent at the time was like, do it. It's a year out of your life. It's a tour. And it'll be a brilliant job. And I did. And I haven't performed since. And that was 2011. So, and then since then, I've been doing lots of children's directing on Cameron's productions, and on for other producers on The Bodyguard, a little bit of work on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, The Sound of Music, and then became a resident director about 4 years ago, and most recently was resident director on Phantom London.
Yeah.
Cool.
Uh,
So that's kind of me, really.
Yeah, I love that, and it's interesting because we've spoke to quite a few people now that that those careers have diverged from where they thought perhaps they would have diverged, and and I kind of I find it very interesting, kind of like how everybody has that kind of moment where something happens and it changes, and sometimes you just never look back, but it's not a negative thing at all. It's an incredibly positive
Yeah,
force in your
no,
life that just kind of makes that happen for you. And it's so interesting. I even had somebody who's still a drama school student ask me this week. They were like, why is it, so many people kind of like drop off, like, over the years, as you get older, there's less and less people in the industry. And I just said life, just just the way that it
yeah,
is, and you need to get out of your head that it's just because you're not currently in the West End at the moment doesn't mean that that's failure, or that
I
actually
know
we're
that's such danger ground, isn't
yeah.
it? I kind of hate that. We've all done that. We're all seeking approval constantly, aren't we? And
Yep.
when you work for good producers and not so good, people who don't have a lot of money, regardless of what you're doing, you're constantly seeking approval. We
Hmm.
want to be employed. We want to be told we're doing a good job, and it's really hard to remember that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it takes work, it takes real, it's part of, I constantly say to the students all the time, you have to keep building your confidence. It's not something that just stays with you. You have to work hard at it. And I think, just like
Yeah,
you say, that idea of not necessarily seeking approval from anybody other than yourself, I think is something that takes work as well, and something you have to
yeah,
keep grafting at as well. So, yeah, that's a really good point.
absolutely.
Really good
Yeah.
point. So Kim's got a question for us.
Oh, okay.
Do you have a signature move that you put in your choreography? And
Oh,
also, what is your dream project to work on?
oh. Is this Kim as in one of our
It is
students?
Kim, one of our students, yeah.
I probably do have some signature moves. I can't think off the top of my head now. I'm sure they'll all be able to tell me if I have a signature move. When I can't think of an eight, and I'll just whack something in or a repeat. So, do I have a signature move? Oh, I hate not to be able to answer. But
I'm sure
probably
they
yes.
will. I'm sure they will. So if
Yes,
Mark
they
has a
can all.
signature move, put it in the chat.
Yes, the
Yeah.
question is, do I have a signature move? Let's throw that back.
Yeah.
And remind me what the other part of the question
What
was.
is your dream project to work on?
My dream project would be to actually now would be to run a building like West Yorkshire Playhouse or Birmingham Rep or Chichester Festival Theatre. I'd love that would be my ideal job, to be like an artistic director of a building,
Mm-hmm.
to program the work, to employ brilliant, wonderful, creative people, um, to give my friends jobs, because that's so important,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to just create within a building. And one of my things that I love doing, and I hope I try and put this across in all of my work as a teacher and as a director and as anyone, is that collaboration for me is very important. um, I think the best work is created when it's like an across the board
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody is on the same page. I love being a director or a choreographer and coming up with the work and the steps, but I just love working with a team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was one of the most wonderful things for me, especially about Phantom, um, was that team of people, that creative team, the resident choreographer, the musical director, the company manager, that pocket of people. We loved the work, and we cared for the product and the show and the audience, and we cared for each other. And that's so rare, that you have a group of people who are like-minded and who want the product to be the best that it can be. And that for me is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think it's very, very healthy. I'm a very positive human being. I kill with love, not with hate. um, and I just think that if I one day had my own building that I was in charge of, that would be so wonderful.
Just be-
Because I love even, like, sorry, I
that's
love
okay.
even liaising like with the wig department and the costume department. Like, that's just so exciting to work with all of those creative energies,
Yeah.
and to all come together for the same thing.
Absolutely. I just think it'd be really useful for especially the students, because of course, like when people say artistic director, they think of the person that comes in the room and, directs the show and, doesn't deal with anything else. But can you talk a little bit about what the changes between being a kind of normal director on a show to being an artistic director of a venue such as what Daniel Evans is doing at Chichester just now? Because of course Daniel Evans actually has had a very similar path to yourself in that he's been a performer and actor and then has gone into directing and is now in charge of being the artistic director of Chichester. What does that actually mean, and what kind of responsibilities would you have if you were to be given a building?
Well, I mean, I think the simplest way to describe it would be a director goes in and then goes away and then doesn't really come back until a year later. If it's a long-running production, like the shows I work on, Phantom or whatever, the director directs the show and then goes away and directs another show and then works and directs a film or does that and the other. A resident director, which is what I am now, works in a building, so kind of has that kind of energy of being the person within the building that is in charge. So like on Phantom, I rehearse the actors, I teach the understudies the show, I note the show, I work with the creative team, I liaise with the wig department and the costume department. If I watch the show and somebody's wig doesn't look particularly good, I go and I talk to the wig department and say, the wig didn't look that good tonight, or the wigs this week are beautiful. So you kind of have that responsibility as a resident director, but it's just on that one show. If you're an artistic director of like a building, you're very much in charge of programming the shows that go there. So for instance, if you think about Chichester or West Yorkshire Playhouse or Pitlochry or all of those wonderful regional theatres, producing theatres, Birmingham Rep, beautiful, beautiful venue. The artistic director there programs the productions that are on there, employs other directors and choreographers to come in and create the shows. I would potentially also direct a show a year, and bring in choreographers to work with. So, and also working on things like outreach programs, working with the community, keeping the building ticking along. Working with children, having children theatre groups there. So, because that's an enormous passion of mine, is teaching and working with kids in the community. So that's why I'd love to do that. It's about like the artistic director thing it's not just the directing the shows, which I love. It's about people, which is really one of my massive passions.
Yeah.
Creative people that want to be in that environment. I just think that's just so lovely. So that kind of differentiates the roles.
Yeah.
And you kind of do work up the ranks, like you said.
Yeah.
I've worked up the ranks. I've been an actor. I then became a dance captain. From dance captain, you then become like assistant resident, children's director. Then you become a resident director. So it is climbing that ladder constantly.
Yeah.
And very much working for Cameron's company. A lot of their resident directors, or if you think of somebody like the lovely, wonderful Lawrence Connor, who is directing Cinderella now and has had huge successes with School of Rock and Jesus Christ Superstar and all of those wonderful shows. He was an actor in Les Mis.
That's
and
right.
He became a dance captain and he became a children's director.
Yep.
And then he became all of those people, it's kind of that similar.
Same with somebody like Andrew Panton, who's artistic director at Dundee Rep Theatre. He used to be a dancer and an actor, and then became a teacher as well as working his way up as well. Yeah, it's just I think it's something that people don't people kind of know that these people exist, but I think it's really good to just kind of clear that up and really let people, young
How
performers,
they
know.
exist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
It's
because
like being an actor, isn't it? You know, you move up the ranks sometimes as an actor, or you know, you start in the ensemble, you then get understudies, you then sometimes get those leading roles, and
yeah,
that was never a thing for me. I don't think.
yeah,
I knew that I was never going to play the lead. I understudied a couple of leads along the way, but something came along unexpectedly and kind of just pushed me along a different road.
yeah. I think that's
Uh,
really, really amazing. I think it's great. And you've obviously incredibly had incredible success with it, which is really wonderful. So it's really,
oh,
really
thanks.
lovely
Yeah,
to see. On that point about kind of being a director, what sort of personality traits do you look for with other creatives and actors? So you said you like collaborating. Like, what kind of people do you like collaborating with? And that comes from a comment on Steam Chat, not Steam Chat, Twitch Chat. What am I saying?
Twitch chat. Never
Yeah.
heard of that. Um,
Well, Twitch has now heard of you, so
when
that's
I, um, you know, when I was an actor, I, as my career progressed, I became so dreadful at auditioning. I like some people say you get better at it. I definitely got worse at it. So now, when an actor comes in and auditions for me, I my go-to is to initially make them feel comfortable and make them feel worthy and enough and all of that. So what I'm looking for is that they feel that. That's important to me, that, you know, and it's easier said than done, isn't it? You know, all this thing about feeling good about yourself and, oh God, I can't sing today, my voice isn't very good. But when I'm looking for, especially in auditions, I'm looking for kindness, because ultimately I'm looking to cast the show, but actually I'm looking to put human beings in close proximity with other human beings. You know, in those dressing rooms, if I'm casting a West End production that's on for years and years and years, you're putting people in a room with another person. So there's so much people management in my job, you know, and I want to be around nice people, because ultimately that's what I try and be. I'm looking for somebody that's kind, that's nice, that um, knows what they have is enough and that they're good. And I'm not looking for perfection, because perfection isn't perfect. Um, I'm looking for people that want to grow and want to learn. And it's not about the best voice. It's not about the best, the most pretty person or the most handsome person. It's about the person. And that's across the board, whether it's a choreographer or a head of wigs, or you know, somebody that wants to come and do work experience for 2 weeks. Are they going to disrupt this building, or are they going to disrupt our rehearsals for 2 weeks? You don't want that. You want it to be as easy and as wonderful and as plain sailing as possible, because we just want to have a good time, essentially.
Yeah.
And we want to have a laugh. We want to get the work done and we want to take it seriously. But ultimately, we want to have a great time.
Yeah.
And you don't, I mean, by being around kindness and love.
Yeah, I really like that, and I think actually it's so interesting because for me, my experience as a performer is that Cameron's really facilitates that just as a company overall in their audition spaces. I really have always felt that, and it leads on to kind of the next question that's been asked. And my first experience of this was with Cameron's company. When, you know, I got a phone call from my agent, Scott, do you want to be in the dance edition or do you want to be in the movers edition? And I knew exactly what I was going to say then. So, but it was, you know, and it was really to kind of be treated in that way was actually something quite special at the time. I think it was the first time I'd ever heard that. But on that point, do you have any advice for movers to feel more comfortable and stand out in the dance rounds of auditions?
You just have to go in there and do it. You have to know what your ability is. You know, if you know what you are, you can still go in there and don't compare. Comparing yourself the second you walk in, it's whether you want the job or you don't want the job at the end of the day. And ultimately, you want the job. You have to go in that room and be employable. And that's not just from a picking up the steps perspective, that's from a not being crushed by the other talent in the room. You just have to zone all of that out. And if it's too hard and you can't pick it up, then just be grown up and just either go, this isn't for me, I'm going to go. And then go and have a cappuccino and a Twix and just get over it. Or you go, I'm just going to go for this. What else have I got to lose? Because you've got nothing to lose. Because the thing is, when you walk into the room as an actor, you have absolutely no idea what they need. Because if we're recasting a show, we know exactly who we are looking for. So if we're casting a production and we bring all of the level of dancers into the room at the same time, we might be looking for people that can't dance.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we might be looking for people that are understudies, or you don't know what we're looking for. So there's no point in you putting the pressure on yourself and going, well, I'm crap, I'm rubbish, and I'm useless compared to this 6'2" leggy girl who obviously can kick her own face. Well, we might not be looking for that. We might be looking for what you are.
Yep.
And if you've already got in your way and told yourself that you're rubbish and I'm not very good and I feel like shit, sorry, then you've got in your way and then you're not employable anymore.
Yep.
So it's all about being employable from the second you walk into wherever that audition is being held. Walking from the tube to the venue, you've got to be employable. Be careful what you're saying on your phones. Be careful who you're talking to behind, because people get hurt.
Yep.
And the reason lots and lots of auditions, well, not the reason, but one of the useful things about auditions are the runners.
Yep.
Because the runner will come in and go, oh, she was horrible. Yet this person's just done the most wonderful audition. And we're hearing that she's not a very nice person. Oh, well, we won't employ her then.
Yep.
We don't need that.
Yeah,
We'll find another talented person.
Yeah, I'll never forget my. It was the first job I got. I say out of college. I hadn't even quite left college yet. I was still in my third year, and I remember being taught all of these lessons that you're saying, and standing there very respectfully, waiting to go in for my turn. And this lad came out who was not much older than me, but he'd clearly graduated for a couple of years and was getting a little bit annoyed that that he was kind of still in the middle of the slog of auditions, kind of 2 or 3 years out of college, and he was a little bit cocky. And I remember him talking to somebody, and it was in was it called St Mark's Church? It's the one that Bill Kenwright does loads of auditions in, and
yes, Edgware, yes.
Yeah, and everything can be heard everywhere in that building, and this boy was kind of slating to his friend, the amount of money that apparently Bill Kenwright was paying for the show and all the rest of it, and out of nowhere, out of this little side room, Bill himself just walks out and kind of goes, "Hi everybody, hope you're having a nice day," and walks into another room in the building, and this boy's face just went white. Needless to say, I don't remember him on that job. But it's true. It's that's obviously an extreme version, but it is really important, isn't it? It's like you're saying,
Honestly.
You don't want people to disrupt the production, and somebody like that instantly you go, I can't trust that they're not going to.
I would always say try and resist. If you're not with literally your best friend or your mum or your dad, just resist having a negative opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just never know that it's not going to go somewhere, and it's not going to either be overheard or be spoken again by somebody else.
Yeah.
Have an opinion. We're all entitled to an opinion, and opinions matter and count. But just be really careful about what you say, because actually, that's what somebody will remember you by. They'll remember you by what your opinion was, and you want to be remembered for positivity. And I always say that your reputation precedes you. That's obvious, but your reputation in auditions, your reputation walks into the room before you do, because we on the panel know who is coming into the room, because we have our list, and one of us or all of us have either met you before, or if we haven't met you before, we'll find out what we need to know about you. We'll find out what your reputation is. So just make sure it's intact. I literally cannot say that enough. It's so important. It really, really is.
Agreed.
Because it stops people getting jobs, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Regardless of your talent, because the industry's overpopulated. There's so many of us and so few little jobs, especially now, that just be the best version of yourself across the board.
Yeah. It also makes you live a much better life, I think. How many people get the opportunity to work in an industry where people are looking for the best version of you as a human being, not just the work that you do? I think that's a really lovely way to look at it. Yeah. Absolutely. So we've got more addition questions.
Okay.
So obviously the students are very keen to hear all your opinions on all of this. So this is from Gabby. How do you find a good balance of bringing yourself to a role and showing your version of a character whilst keeping the attention to detail that's been given to you potentially by the director or whatever else? And when do unique and interesting choices start to become too much?
Yeah, it is a fine line. One of the things about Cameron's productions, if I talk about, because that's what I know, we are always encouraging the actors to be their version of a role. The direction is the direction. When a new Javert or a new Christine or a new Mary Poppins comes into the show, or if you're rehearsing an understudy, they are directed with the same language that everybody is directed by. That's across the board. However, we very much encourage people to think about their physicality, because not all Phantoms or Christines or Carlottas or Javerts or Mrs. Brills, they're not all the same height, the same ethnicity, the same, just the same. They're not all the same. So think about what your physicality is. Think about what your ethnicity is. Think about what historically your kind of ethnicity can bring to the role. But always remembering that the original direction is the original direction. One of the things for us, it's difficult in an audition scenario, because in an audition, especially when it gets to recalls and stuff, you're trying to remember all of those details you've been given. But from the sense of like show work, it's about remembering that everything you do on stage and everything that you do as a performer should come from a sense of conversation. It should never be off the cuff. Oh, I decided to do this, I decided to do that. Never go, I'm going to change it just because I want to. It should all, like one of my particularly things that grates me are when performers, and even in auditions, they just change something. Say I've chosen, if we get to a recall or a final stage, and I've got, I don't know, 3 Christines to show Cameron and Andrew, and they're all brilliant. We've chosen those three because they're all perfect for the role. They can sing it, they can act it, they're brilliant. We've put these three up for it. One of the things that literally makes me want to smash my own face in is when actors change it on the spot. And you go, why have you done that? You've just done yourself out of a job. We didn't discuss that. Don't think that you are the director. It's important. Again, it's important to have an opinion as an actor, but always do what you know. Don't do what you don't know, because then things start to evolve. If there weren't resident directors on shows, Phantom of the Opera, for instance, wouldn't be Phantom of the Opera at the end of 1 week. It would be a completely different show, because actors like to exaggerate and change things, especially in long running shows, because they want to mix it up. So then by the end of a week, or by the end of then 2 weeks or 3 weeks, if there was nobody watching the show noting it, you wouldn't by the end of that 3 weeks have Phantom of the Opera anymore. You'd have a version of the show that wasn't directed by Hal Prince.
Yeah.
So as the actor, my biggest thing for you would be, do the direction, do what you know. Don't do what you don't know.
Absolutely.
That language.
To put it into context for people watching, I remember having a conversation with the amazing David Steadman, who is a big musical supervisor and does loads of stuff for Bill Kenwright's. And Bill Kenwright at the time had Cabaret on in the West End. And he went in and apparently was furious because he got called to go in at at short notice, because the show was running 20 minutes longer than it was originally rehearsed at. And it was because the band and the singers were just kind of taking such liberties with the score that 20 minutes was added to the show to running time over the course of like 2 months or something before he'd been in there. Yep.
That's what happens, you see, and that's a natural thing, because we want to evolve and we want the show to, but that's like what my job as a resident director. I don't have the authority to go in and redirect the show. I have to do Hal Prince's show. I can use my own language to explain why the Phantom does this, why he moves there, but essentially, we as the actor and as the director are a team, and we have to work together. You can't just the actor certainly doesn't have the authority to go up and change, because A, it's not fair on the other actors in the space and in the show. And B, it's disrespectful to the late, great, legendary Hal Prince.
Absolutely.
Or somebody else,
Absolutely.
Just do what you know. And also, one of my biggest pieces of advice would be for an actor in an audition and on stage, remember that the words that are written on the page are enough. They are written, whether it's a good show, in our opinion, or a not so good show, in our opinion, or not so good lyrics, the lyrics are there. They exist, and they are enough. So just allow those words to just fall out of your mouth. And if you do that, then you kind of understand it more. That's a whole other conversation about.
It really is. It really is. I say to people all the time, there's no such thing as a mistake on a well-written piece of sheet music. It really is that. That every single moment has been fought over by a whole team of people to get you to that point.
Yeah, and it's not our job to rewrite it. We just have to go in. And we have to make it work.
Yeah.
That's our job.
Yeah, absolutely.
How we do that that's the battle. But we do that as a team. We work together. And because ultimately the show exists. So let's just make it work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tess has got a question which is kind of on the other side of that. So she's saying that she really loves all your choreography and the variety of styles that you've covered with the students this term. And our question is about how do you go about creating it? Do you have a particular process? Do you already have like a kind of larger idea, are you kind of a big picture person that knows exactly what you want, or do you kind of like evolve the work with the people that are in the space? What's your kind of overall
No,
process
I'm
as a
not.
creative?
As a choreographer, I can't, like, I can direct and come up with thought and idea on the spot. I cannot choreograph on the spot. I have to have it written down. I write all of the choreography down. And I suppose what I do is I trawl for hours and hours listening to dance breaks and new musicals and moments. So what I generally do, and I learned this from when I was doing Starlight Express. Arlene Phillips, we were doing I'd done the show in London years and years and years ago, before probably all of you were even alive. And then,
In
or
the
at least,
Apollo Victoria.
yeah, or at least
Brilliant
baby.
production. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that version, then swore I'd never ever do Starlight Express again. And of course, did it again. But on the tour, we were doing this new version that was going to, we were doing a UK tour. And then it was going to like Scandinavia and like Oslo, Norway. Anyway, I digress. And they were choreographing the show because the set was going to be bigger. And I wasn't really, choreography wasn't part of my world then. I was literally just in shows. And I remember sitting, and I was the dance captain on the show. And I remember sitting with Arlene, and she was thinking we were kind of creating this new world together. And what she did was, she has like a sheet of A4 paper, lined paper, and each line corresponds to a count of 8. So she would write down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines. That's 8 eights. Does that make sense?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 2, 3. And in that 8, she would write, she would think about, she would listen to where the accents were. If there, and she did very much, one of my things as a choreographer, and the kids will know this, that, kids, just call them kids because they are. Accents and orchestrations are so important. So important. So she would like write down in a piece, in a line, where an accent. What? I'm just on a thing. Can you close the door? Sorry.
That's all right.
No, because I'm on a. Bye. They're used to that. So she would write in that 8 where an accent was, or where a drum was, or a cymbal, or something like that, and could you incorporate that into the choreography? And I just remember her sat there writing sheets and sheets and sheets of paper, like this. She was like with sheets of paper. Most amazing woman. And that's where I got that. I always remembered that. Then when I started choreographing, started teaching, and then teaching musical theatre and having to come up with musical theatre routines, that's kind of now how I work. So it's about the dance breaks. I can't make up on the spot, even if I'm choreographing a show. If I'm working with an assistant choreographer or a dance captain that I've got, I can't just work it out in the room with the actors. The preparation for me is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And having it written down and looking at the patterns and stuff. So I enjoy choreography. I love teaching dance and teaching musical theatre. But in a way, I find it hard work because it's moving. Nowadays, I'd much rather direct a scene or a show or a monologue or a piece of acting through song, but totally understand and love that. I love being in a room with dancers and all of that as well. It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a question from Claire. She's extremely grateful for all that she's learned from your classes every week. She wants to ask if you've got any personal tips on building and sustaining confidence in the industry. I'm guessing in yourself within the industry rather than in the industry itself, and how to improve that inner dialogue in order to improve your own self-belief.
You know what? It's really, really hard. It's what we were saying before about seeking approval. And one of the things that I do a lot is remind myself of all of the brilliant things that have happened along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because there've been some crap, there's been lots of time out of work. It hasn't been plain sailing. I've been very, very lucky and very fortunate to do some beautiful, wonderful work and shows as an actor and as a creative. But there's also been for me some very, long spells out of work. And that's the hardest thing as creative people that we have to deal with. The being out of work is really hard. The being in work is hard as well, by the way. But the being out of work is really, really hard for us because we want to prove to people that we're worthy. We want to prove to our parents that all the money that they've spent at drama school and constantly bailing us out, we want to prove to them that we're worthy.
Yeah.
We want to prove to our partners and our friends and the people in the industry that we, maybe a person that we don't get on with and a person that annoys us or a person that we find irritating. We want to prove to them that we're worthy. But we want to prove to ourselves that we're worthy, and we get in our own heads. And you know what? If I had do this and a do that, I would be a better person myself. I don't know what the answer is my honest question. But what I try and do for myself is I try and remind myself what I'm good at and the experiences I've had, the people that I've met. I regularly just have a little look through an old program and look at my CV, look at the fact that I was in there, because regardless of our experience and what we've done, we've all, in some way or another, since we decided to do this, had moments in our life that we're proud of. Regardless of whether we were paid £1,000 a week or we were paid nothing.
Yep.
We've all experienced success. And in some way, whether I was in, if I look back to when I was a teenager, it's got very dark in here. I do apologize.
That's all right.
When I think back to being a teenager and being in a production of Fiddler on the Roof with my old operatic society, that was success. That was a moment of success for me. I was a teenager and I wasn't getting paid, and it was with an operatic society in a production of Fiddler on the Roof that probably wasn't very good, but it was a wonderful experience. And that's important, that we remember all of those things, because all of those things outweigh the rubbish and the crap and the fact that, somebody else can sing that note better than me. Well, who cares?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Some people can drive round roundabouts better than people.
Absolutely.
Or some people can, make a Sunday dinner better than, me, because I can't. It's about constantly reminding ourselves what we're good at and of course acknowledging what we need to be better at, because we all need to be better at stuff.
Absolutely.
But we're all brilliant at the end of the day.
Agreed. I think it is really important to remember that as well, isn't it? That, and I often find myself saying, and the students that are here that know me will absolutely know that I say this all the time. Take the small successes. It's not It's not about winning an Oscar every day, you know. It's like just being able to kind of get out of bed when you don't really feel up to it, and kind of having a good singing practice. That's a success, you know. Kind of
Yeah.
getting a note right twice when you only got it right once the day before. That's a success, and kind of keeping kind of hold of the context of what it is that you're doing, you
Oh
know.
God, yeah, we're not saving lives. We're not, we've not created the COVID vaccine, have we?
Exactly,
We're
exactly.
just working in musical theatre,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's really, really hard. It's really tough when your partner and your best friend's getting an audition or an interview and you haven't got one, and you're like, well, why haven't I got one? That's really hard.
yep.
But be happy for them. And if you're happy for them and you're happy for other things in the industry, you'll ultimately be happy for yourself.
Yep. And I find as well, like, and this is something that I'm not the first person to say this, but the people that I know that are the most successful in this industry are always the first to congratulate others on their successes.
Yeah.
Always.
I did one of these for Brit School in person. God,
Yeah.
remember what that was like? Um, like last
Back
year,
in the day, yeah.
I know, back in the olden days. Um, and this girl said to me, "What does it like?" It made me feel really, really sick. She says, "You're so successful. What does it feel like?" And I was like, "No, I've experienced success. Let's put it into perspective. When you think about what is successful, that's just my personal opinion of it. I've been really lucky that I've experienced success. I might never, when this is all over, I could potentially, never work on a West End show again. When,
Mm-hmm.
but I've experienced success, as have you, as has everybody else, in our chosen field.
Yeah.
Don't put a monetary thing on what you do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree.
That's so important.
Yeah. We've got two more questions I need to
Oh,
ask you.
go for it. Go.
And if anybody else has got a question, this is last orders at the questions bar. So
And
make
I'll
sure you
try
get
and
them
be
in.
quick and
Yeah,
answer.
it's all right.
I'll go
Your
around
your
the
answers have been. I'm so thankful for the answers you've given. They've been so wonderful and really, really inspiring to hear. So thank you so much for taking the time over them. So this one's from Lisa. And she says, when working on a project, is it sometimes difficult to take off your director hat as a choreographer and vice versa? How do you deal with it? Because obviously, sometimes you'll be working as a director and a choreographer, but if you're working as one and not the other, how do you strike that balance when there's somebody else in the team?
It's really, really hard. If I'm working on a project and I am the director and there is a choreographer, what is so important for me is I'd always have a production meeting right at the beginning of the process. And as the director, I would always, with your team, always go in with a vision of what you, as the director, think the show is. And give your team, give your designer and your choreographer and your wig designer and your lighting designer all of the thoughts and all of the ideas, and encourage them to be as creative as you are, and then allow them to go and do their thing, because it's really, really hard. As a director, you have the final word is like an awful thing to say, but you have the authority to go, oh, kind of wasn't thinking that, or can we have a bit more narrative there, or can we, you kind of have that authority. But it's all about all of the work that we do across the board, whether you're a director or whoever you are, or an actor. It's about management of people. You have to be able to manage how you speak to people, and everybody is different.
Yeah.
I could approach one choreographer and say, oh, I really don't like that, I'm not sure. Or you go to another choreographer and you couldn't use that language, because they will literally probably go and jump off a bridge. That was a bit, they wouldn't jump off a bridge, but you have to be very specific with your language. I because I love collaborating, I'm not afraid to say what I think, but I always try and be very specific with the language that I choose, because you don't want to upset anybody and say, I don't like your work, I don't like those steps you've made up, or I don't like that eight, you were clearly didn't know what to make up and you just did a repeat.
Yeah.
You can always just always have a little step back and think, right, how am I going to tackle this? What language am I going to use? It's all about what language you use.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is really tough thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about being honest and saying, look, it's for the good of the show. This is what I think. What do you think?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a great
Always
question, Lisa.
be up for having a conversation. As the other person, always allow that other person to have their opinion and allow them to express what they want. You know, maybe they're seeing it from a different angle, and allow them to explain themselves and go, oh, okay, we can work on that.
Yeah.
Just be open. Be open to anything.
Yeah, I love that. It's really great. It's really great.
It's really hard, though.
Yeah, I bet. And last questions from Freddie. She says, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Having worked in Germany as well, have you noticed if any differences between the industry there or in Central Europe and the United Kingdom? And do you have any tips for people that want to work in more than one locality or outside of the UK?
Yeah, having done Poppins in Stuttgart and Hamburg, there aren't as many German performers from what I experienced. You know, that it's not as they don't really have a West End over there, you know. So, you know, they have obviously big cities where they have various shows, but performers are performers, you know. There are lots and lots of talented performers. In Germany, there aren't as many performers across the board, but I never got a sense that there was that they were any better or less talented. I was always just so amazed that they were singing in German. I mean, that was just mind blowing to me, especially singing Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
That was especially supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which is what it is in German. But I'd never got the sense that they were any better or any worse, or I just felt a very similar love for what we want to do. I just maybe that there weren't as many. It's like I have one of my dearest friends is French, and she was in Phantom Just, and she says that she's only worked in France because there just aren't many of her. I mean, she's immensely talented, but there's more work for European performers because there's less of them.
Yeah.
And I would just say, for European performers, make sure you're working on your English sounds. We don't want you to lose what you are, but it's important that when we're casting a show, it's like when you're casting a production, you're looking for specifics.
Mm-hmm.
And, just make sure that you're constantly working on your English sounds, because, that's just a thing that we don't want a voice to stand out, especially in an ensemble. But we have lots of people from outside the UK in Cameron's productions, and we like Celinda, for example, who played Fontaine and Christine, and her English sound is really, really good.
Which is fantastic, especially because they don't learn that, because she trained in Fontaine's, and they don't learn that over there. They learn Amsterdam Dutch. It's very, very Dutch. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's worked really hard on her sounds and continues to do that. And when you work with her, she'll say, before you go in her room to give her a note, she was like, I know what you're going to say. I know that you're going to tell me that I didn't sound English tonight. So she's very aware of it, and she wants to please and be better and work on that. So, but we were always encouraging her, or who else? Lots and lots of lovely. Manon, who is French, you know, she is French, but she understudied Carlotta. So we're working on that for her, singing a show in English, but as a French person playing an Italian role for her was like, this is really mind-blowingly tough.
Yeah.
But we were encouraging her to feel her European presence, you know, bring that to it. So there's lots and lots of room for all performers. I think that's the good thing about working for Cameron, especially. He wants to just employ people that want to be employed,
which is amazing. Absolutely.
Which is the main thing, the main, you know.
Amazing.
So yeah.
Anyway, Mark, thank you so much for your time tonight. That's been really, really, really wonderful. And you know, the students were absolutely right to request that you come on this. Although I'm absolutely sure that we would have asked you anyway, because it's just, you know, what you give our students every single week is really, really fantastic. So thank you for that. And if you're watching this and you're not part of Associated Studios, Mark is one of our regular teachers. He's been teaching every week with us, and hopefully will continue to do so until, obviously, Chichester and West Yorkshire Playhouse and Theatre Clwyd and Pitlochry, and they all of them just throw themselves at the mercy of Mark. Yeah. But yeah, so if you would like to be, you know, taught by incredible people like the amazing Mark Hedges, then please head over to Associated Studios. We run a 1 year, we run a 2 year course as well, but a 1 year master's in musical theatre. We've got some amazing things planned in the coming years at Associated Studios, so keep your eyes peeled. And yeah, please feel free to get in touch with us. www.associatedstudios.co.uk. Maybe we'll have Mark back on Industry Talks at some point in the future. I'm sure there's many more questions to come. And hopefully we'll see you all here next week for the incredible Anthony Drew. So one half of the incredible writing team Styles and Drew is here, who is going to be talking to us about all of the wonderful work that he has done as one of Britain's most loved lyricists, who obviously was the lyricist on Mary Poppins. So that's our lovely little link there. So we're going to kind of like keep it in the family, as it were. And the incredible Anthony Drew will be here next week at 6 p.m. So make sure you tune in either on Twitch, and you can talk to us on Twitch chat, or you can catch us at Associated Studios on Facebook, and you can take part in the conversation. Please feel free to join us at any point. We have these industry talks every week, and they stay on our Facebook. They're going to be uploaded to our YouTube very soon as well. So we've got some incredible ones that you can go back and look on, including last week with the amazing Martina Laird as well, who's one of our regular teachers. So if you want to get a little flavour of what we're about or what we do, then please feel free to get in touch with us there. So thank you so much, Mark. Thank you everybody for watching, and we will see you all next week.